We are so delighted to have a very special guest to end the year with Dmitry Muratov, the winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize. I'm David Kaplan. I'm Executive Director of the Global Investigative Journalism Network. I am joined by our terrific Deputy Director, Gabriella Manuli. Say hi, Gabby.
Hello, everyone.
Again, thanks for joining us. We're excited about hosting Mr. Muratov. He is executive editor of Novaya Gazeta, Russia's leading independent newspaper. On Friday, he and Maria Ressa of the Philippines online paper Rappler were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for, quote, their efforts to safeguard freedom of expression, which is a precondition for democracy and lasting peace. So we're just delighted to have him. You know, around the world today, we journalists face what is becoming an existential crisis, not just for a free press, but for democracy and human rights. Journalists are at the front lines of this struggle. We're being sued, we're being imprisoned, we're being shot at. We face unprecedented surveillance, legal harassment. The flood of disinformation is undermining public trust in our work. Perhaps nowhere can you find a more critical front line in this struggle than in Russia, where leading independent media outlets are being branded undesirable organizations and journalists foreign agents. Growing numbers are being forced into exile. Others have been jailed or even murdered, including a half dozen of Novaya Gazeta's staff and associates. Despite this, the ranks of investigative journalists are growing, and the Nobel Committee's recognition of our colleagues in Russia and the Philippines is shining a needed light on the challenges that journalists are facing in this troubled environment.
Thank you very much, Dave, and thank you, Dmitry, for joining us today. It's an honor to be part of this conversation. So before we start, let me give you a little bit of information about the Global Investigative Journalism Network for those of you who are not familiar with it. GIJN currently serves as the global hub for the world's investigative journalists. We have 211 member organizations in 82 countries, but in fact, we work with journalists everywhere, nonprofits, commercial organizations, freelancers, you name it. We have an extensive range of resources and tip sheets to help journalists worldwide that you can check on our website, GIJN.org. We really would like to hear from the audience and get your questions, so you can write the questions starting now in the Q&A box on the left, on the bottom down, sorry. You can write the questions in English or you can write it in your language and we will translate them. And finally, please know that we will be recording this session for posting later on YouTube. Dave, off to you.
Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce Dmitry Muratov. He is editor-in-chief of Russia's Novaya Gazeta. We have followed the paper's work for 20 years and always been impressed with the level of watchdog reporting that it does. They have done projects into corruption, human rights abuses, electoral fraud, police violence, and other abuses of power in a country where many independent news outlets can simply no longer operate. Since 2000, at least 5 of their journalists have been killed, with Anna Politkovskaya, the most prominent among them. Dmitry, a big welcome to our audience. I think our first question for you is, you know, you're a working journalist, like many in our audience. How are you feeling? What is it like to get a Nobel Peace Prize, and what's it doing to your life?
I feel at work.
What does that mean? That nothing's changed? You just go about, you still have editorial meetings and
At the moment, I'm in Samara, close to Volga River. I flew to visit my friends to Echo of Moscow radio station, to Samara. And what do I understand? There's much more work for me now, because now at Novaya Gazeta, everybody and I personally get hundreds of emails when people are requesting to help with medicine, with court hearings, with apartments, and children diseases. So this award turned into a new job for me. And to be honest, I'm happy because of that, and we will do that.
well, huge congratulations. And you've become suddenly an icon for the entire international journalism community. We typically have journalists from about 50 countries join us at these webinars. Here's a good chance to talk to the global journalism community, particularly the investigative journalism community.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really wanted to do this. And when I came to Samara, I contacted Echo Moscow, the local radio station office, and I asked them to provide me with this opportunity. So thank you so much. It is a huge honor for me to speak with these people who at the moment are here with us.
The honor is ours, sir. You said in your Nobel acceptance speech that, and I'm quoting, the award today goes to the entire community of investigative journalists. Thank you, but what did you mean by that?
And it is so. So it is. It is enough for the governments, for the authorities to hide from the people that cases that we're trying to investigate. I believe that investigative journalists and the investigation in general is the main function in the planet as of now.
You concluded your Nobel acceptance speech with the warning that the growing attacks on journalists are not only an assault on the free press, but on freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. You're on the front lines of this in Russia. What is your message to the rest of the global journalism community about this?
Well, I would like, with this brilliant professional that you're talking about, I would not like to tell anything to them, but I would like to agree about coordinated action, because I believe that professionals have to act together. And when I will have an opportunity to tell this today, I will do so.
Gabby, you want to ask a couple of questions?
Yes, you said that now you kind of feel that you got a new job handling all these requests, these emails. Do you envision, how are you going to do this? Do you envision changing something?
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Are you going to shift your role somehow? Are you going to ask for help? How are you going to manage this new job?
Thank you for this question. Yes, I will need an entire call center so that we can respond to all of the questions by the people. And I'm in the process of setting up this call center. This is a first day since I came back, but in a week's time, we will do that. We'll make that happen.
Great, good luck with that. I'm also interested in how Novaya Gazeta is organized.
Oh, well, it would be great if you also helped us with this.
Okay, we can talk after this. Can you tell us a little bit about how Novaya Gazeta is organized in the way that it's kind of a cooperative in a way, or how the journalists work together, how much you rely on crowdfunding or donations or help? So can you explain to the general audience how Novaya Gazeta is organized?
Thank you. May I address those who are listening us today, my colleagues, other professional journalists, because I admire these people. I have two questions to you, dear colleagues. Question number one. During my Nobel speech, I said that we want to establish international tribunal that will be dealing with tortures. And this is a terrible, ugly thing that is happening in prisons in various countries across the world. And in Russia, it is happening all the time. All those who would like to join international tribunal against the torture, please contact me by email. And I will create a chat, a torture chat.
Dmitry, are you talking about a?
Yes, I'm all ears.
Are you talking about a cross-border journalism investigative project? Tribunal is a bit confusing. Can you explain?
Let me explain. There is, for example, a human rights tribunal, or there are international tribunals on war crimes. We remember, for example, the Nuremberg process in 1945, 1946 on the war crimes of the Nazi criminals. So I demand an international tribunal to try those who are now attempting and torturing people in Russia and other countries. Who is torturing people? Is it not clear?
It's clear. Yeah, yeah. You see this sounds like a human rights initiative. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And I want to have this as a global initiative which collects information about torture in different countries, so that we could make a wide book of torture, so that then we would send it to an international tribunal which would prosecute those. Is it a clear initiative, or do I need to explain it more?
Well, would the first step of this be done by journalists, or do you foresee a more multidisciplinary approach with attorneys and investigators? And
which approach? The multidisciplinary, you said?
well, I'm asking you how if you have the resources now to start such a project, what would it look like? Is it a cross-border journalism initiative, or is it with human rights investigators and forensic specialists and journalists as well?
It can start as a journalism initiative. And the networks of investigative journalists, well, I think can take part, and they should take part in this, because it is a very important thing. People are tortured all over the world, and torture is like, it annuls the whole justice process. And I really want us to succeed in this initiative.
Gabby?
So, you know, this is a question that I know everybody keeps asking you, and it comes, but it's also a lot in the Q&A. How do you manage to keep working and not being labeled a foreign agent, you know, to keep doing the work? What can you say about that?
Well, I don't know. Well, you have to ask this question to Putin.
What's your guess?
Well, that's what I say. It's a question to Putin.
Dmitry, we're not looking for any trade secrets, but you have been called the great negotiator, and you've been very smart making sure you and your colleagues survive in a very tough environment. I think we're asking because we have people in the audience from places like Egypt or Hong Kong or places that face similar challenges.
How is Hong Kong relevant?
Well, they're losing press freedom rapidly, and journalists are fleeing Hong Kong, and they're being labeled foreign agents. There are some parallels. Do you have any advice for journalists in countries that are losing media freedom?
Well, stand your ground. Never lose your ground or compromise.
Can you do that realistically in a repressive society?
Well, of course, we have repressive authorities. But we do not change our behavior and we stand true to our principles. It's the authority which has to change their approach. And if you want to ask something like that, you have to address this question to the government, to the authorities, not to me. Or if you want to accuse me of anything, well, right now you can express the accusation.
No, we're looking for advice, not accusations.
So, you know, we at GIJN, we have a lot of young journalists that come to us to learn, to learn the...
You can express the accusation, yeah.
We have nothing to accuse you of. Yeah. We're interested in how we help journalists around the world do their jobs under very difficult situations.
The solidarity of journalists, and that's the key. Journalism solidarity. For example, if now Maria Ressa, God forbid, is arrested on Philippines, I will go to her immediately. Like immediately, I would take the flight and go there with the members of the Nobel Committee and human rights activists and investigative journalists. We have to express solidarity towards our colleagues instantly. We have to be there. We have to be on the flight and go to their offices. We have to go to their prisons.
Dmitry, we very much admire your work. What I was saying before is that at GIJN, we encounter a lot of young journalists that are beat reporters, you know, that they just want to get into investigative journalism. So my question will be, first of all, how do you see the future of investigative journalism in Russia? How do you see the new generations? How do you see the future, and how are you trying? What are you trying to do in your, not just you, but your organization to nurture this new generation of investigative journalists?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. First of all, in Russia, we already have a whole generation of fantastic investigative reporters. First and foremost, the важные истории, the iStory. This is a resource called iStories, or the FBK, the Anti-Corruption Fund. It's an outstanding project. So what is my dream and what is my hope and aspiration? I dream and I hope to cooperate with the international network of investigative journalists like you. See, what is my aspiration? If I may, I would like to share this idea. We, investigative reporters, all together managed to uncover many mafia schemes. We managed to find billions of money, of corruption and mafia money. And where would it go? My idea is that altogether we can agree that the money can actually go to some charity which would bring the money back to the people in need, in dire need of curing children or young adults. So we have to take money from the mafia and to give this money to people. This is one of the ideas I have. So feel free to email me. I will do everything possible so that we would not be merely stating that some person stole something and they keep the money in that offshore, but we really want to give this money to people. I think this can also be an outstanding function of investigative journalism. I would like to hear what you think on this.
Dmitry, we understand that you will donate the money received from the Nobel Prize to charitable causes, many tied to issues your team has investigated. Why are these issues so close to your heart? Let us share with the audience a look at some of these. Dmitry, if you can see the screen, we're showing your report on children with spinal muscular atrophy. This really touched you. Also,
Thank you. Yes, you are right. Yes.
Also how professionals at hospices, at long-term end-of-life facilities are trying to improve care. And
indeed, yes, you are right.
And on support for housing.
Yeah, and that is also a facility for people with neurological and mental disorders.
Tell us a little bit about these. Tell us a bit about these. Why have they touched you and your staff so much that you would donate the money to these causes in particular?
It is quite evident. I mean, you've seen the pictures and you've shown the pictures, and it would not be possible to just sit calmly and observe this. I mean, it's not possible to do otherwise. That's why we donate money there. Also, we donate money to support independent journalism in Russia, to the Anna Politkovskaya Foundation and Award. We understand how goes the relation. How goes the relation of the story of sick people and the story of independent journalism. Is that not clear for you?
Well, obviously they're worthy causes. I was curious why these in particular touched you guys so close to the heart.
Well, we've been doing this for several years. It took us several years to try to save these children. And well, of course, it's only natural, it's only human. It is just a human attitude to help them. Well, come on.
Sure. It's I think it's fascinating for our
Thank you. Well, if you also understand that, well, how can you just turn a blind eye to these people who came to the entrance of the building where our newsroom is located? The parents with these kids, with the kids that were dying right before our eyes. And what do you want? For us not to help them, for us not to save them? If not, then explain. Is there a reproach?
No, I have no answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was something lost in translation, but we in fact very admire this. That's why we created the slides, and we just wanted to show how we are journalists, but we are also human beings, and we care deeply about what's happening. So let me ask you a question that the audience wants to know on a lighter note. The audience is asking if your t-shirt has
Yes,
any
please,
meaning.
sure, go ahead.
If your t-shirt has any meaning, that you are wearing that t-shirt for any reason in particular, the audience is asking.
Oh, I was on the plane and I flew here. Yes, I'm a fan of New York Rangers. Yes, I love New York Rangers. I love how they are helping ill people. I love how Madison Square Garden gets hockey players who come to the streets wearing the t-shirts of a color that's different from their team color, and how they are supporting people with cancer. I saw that just recently. I was lucky. And I am absolutely happy that hockey is helping simplify people's lives, that hockey is helping to save other people's lives. So yes, I love New York Rangers.
How many hockey sticks
And
you have in
also,
your collection?
I also like team from Yaroslav with Valery Harlamov's son as their manager, Alexander Harlamov.
Yeah, I know nothing.
So yes,
about I
love hockey.
I know nothing about hockey, but I read that you have a collection of hockey sticks. Are they in display in Novaya Gazeta? Is it possible to get a tour, and how many?
Yes, absolutely, exactly.
So it's true. You have a world-class collection.
Yesterday, I got one of the best hockey sticks, and well, I felt bad, but one of the best ice hockey sticks from my collection was yesterday sold at an auction. Anna Federmeister was hosting it for people in psychoneurological institutions, and this ice hockey stick, Vladimir Petrov's ice hockey stick, extraordinary hockey player, was sold for 1.5 million Russian rubles, and I gave it up, and I'm happy because of that. But of course, I'll miss it. But I'm happy. But I'll miss it. But I'm happy.
Do you think that this hockey interest is part of how you can cope and how you do self-care, or are there any other strategies that you do in your day-to-day that allow you to continue this hard work while also keeping some sanity,
Well, I do not understand whether it helps me to self-care and do something with my well-being, but I understand that everything that we are doing has to be connected to the prayer. The majority of people have the following prayer: "Dear God, please help me." And I think that our prayer is different. Our prayer is the following: "Dear God, how can I help you?"
Thanks. Day, do you want
Yeah,
to jump
well,
quickly
I had the same question, really. Dmitry, you have one of the toughest jobs in a tough profession. And I think any advice on how, as a leader in journalism, what are the best ways to cope with the stress? Our community of journalists around the world is under unprecedented stress. We have all the usual problems: legal harassment, physical threats, lack of reason.
Yes, thank you, I got it. You're right, thank you for asking this question. Let me answer it this way. We have to be successful when we, investigative journalists, after our articles, do not see the outcomes, the results, we burn out. I know that a real life of an article begins after it had been published. After it is published, after the video was published, after it was made public. So we have to get the results with the help of our investigations. And if we see those results, there will be no burnout. And I saw that when working with the children with SMA, when Lisa Kirpanova managed to break through the huge wall of bureaucracy. I saw how Lena Kostyuchenko and Yura Kozyrov forced to pay for Taimyr, for the nature in Taimyr. The nature of Taimyr that was being destroyed. And they paid 146 billion of Russian rubles. And I believe that the journalist has to work to have impact, to see the results, because journalism is about efficiency and effectiveness. It is efficiency management. And if the journalists cannot get these results, this impact, they burn out. And this is my answer to your question.
But not every story is going to have an impact. We know that. And sometimes is it enough to simply report the truth of what is happening and to be a witness to history?
I agree. You are absolutely right. Your question and your clarification is correct. Sometimes you have to simply convey the truth, especially when we're talking about the history. Yes, you are right. And we will try to act this way.
In your Nobel speech, you also said, and I'm quoting here, we are the prerequisite for progress. We are the antidote against tyranny. Dmitry, we like to think here at GIJN that investigative journalism is on the right side of history. If for societies to progress and to prosper, they will have to make room for a watchdog news media that raises questions and digs out the truth. Are we right? Or is there a darker truth?
Investigative journalists are not stealing the future from people, from countries, from nations. What is corruption? Corruption is an apartheid. It's an apartheid. Apartheid is corruption, which means stealing the future from the people. Investigative journalists, being an investigative journalist is the most important mission for the humankind, because investigative journalists are not letting somebody steal the future from us.
Well said. Well said. Gabby, I'm sure you have more questions.
Yeah, and there are some.
This is for you, friends, for all those who are listening to us. I love, respect investigative journalists, because This is a tremendous job. This is work with the sources, databases. This is a work in front of your monitor. This is work in the field. Investigative journalists are the people who will never get this huge honor, but they are the prerequisite for the survival of the humankind.
Thank you. Let me ask you a last question before we go to a few questions from the audience. If you meet a journalist anywhere in the world who is doubting between going into investigative journalism or just staying, I don't know, doing something in entertainment, culture, or something that it won't imply investigation, what are the three things you will say to him or her to tell them to continue the path in investigative journalism?
3 words? 3 words only. Then I'm going to respond.
No word.
Change word for better.
Sorry, can you repeat? It was not words. It could be 3 things, but I'm okay with words. But can you repeat those?
3 pieces of advice.
Yeah.
No, I'm enough with that. Change world for better.
Great.
There are your words, Gabby.
We can make a t-shirt with that. So then should we jump to questions of the audience?
Or a tattoo. Or I suggest a tattoo.
A tattoo. Okay. Temporary.
Well, wait. What kind of tattoo? What are we talking about?
Not
here?
a temporary one.
Okay. We can think at our next investigation.
Changing the world for the better.
To have it.
You can take some time to think it through.
We can have a tattoo booth with phrases by Nobel.
Yeah, Dmitry, at our next conference, we will have it.
If there are more questions, let us go through them because I have only 8 minutes.
We understand that, but I want you to know at our next conference, we will have the Muratov tattoo booth ready for the journalists of the world. Okay.
That's great. Awesome.
All right, Gabby, do we have
the
some
copyright
questions?
is all yours.
I just ask the audience, if any of you watching this live or later end up with this tattoo, send us a photo so we can send it to Mr. Muratov. So we have a question from the audience. Do you think independent?
And I suggest then one more thing. So the formula of the journalists who used to work in the 60s, there should be some connection sometimes between different eras. It is better to do something and feel sorry rather than feel sorry about not having done something.
Well, can you explain that a little more? What do you mean by connections to past generation?
I mean, being talented. And not fuck up your talent and tell the truth. Because there are lots of talented people who fucked up their talent serving the government. We are not serving the government authorities.
And there we have another tattoo. 2 tattoo options. So, question from the audience. Do you think independent media need to move past the old idea of exclusives and being first and instead share and collaborate completely with rival newsrooms against the common enemy of disinformation and the autocracy?
Yes. See, I really want investigative reporters all together with us, with me, to be able, with the whole network, all the networks of investigative journalists, to get back the money stolen by the mafia, the money stolen from the people, and to give it back to people. That's one thing. I already said that. And secondly, I dream that one day investigative reporters, and I don't really rely on anybody else but investigative reporters. I think they are the main power in the world, these associations of investigative reporters. I really want the investigative reporters to do another thing. Besides returning the stolen money, I want us all to create the encyclopedia of torture from different countries, how it is done, how it happens, so that this white book could be created in 1 year. So returning money stolen from the people by the mafia and exposing torture all over the world. This is what I want.
Dmitry, another interesting question from the audience. They ask, where do you find inspiration after an investigation has been completed and before you start working on a new project? There's always a quiet time where you're looking for new story ideas, maybe before you have impact. How do you keep going?
I drink.
and that provides the inspiration.
I have a drink with my friends.
What do you drink? Vodka?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Gabby, what else we got? We have 3 minutes.
Okay, how can journalists from outside Russia help those in the country? What's needed the most? Grants, a safe haven, collaboration, or something else? This is a question from the audience.
Thank you so much. It's the most important question. You now gave the most important question. When reporters are pushed out of my country, when like Galina Marachovskaya from the iStory cannot hold lectures and seminars, I think we have to continue doing the most important things they have started jointly with them. That is one thing. Secondly, never, ever, not in any circumstance, you cannot take you cannot agree to the laws which are offered to you. Dostoevsky, who is now considered one of the biggest writers in the world, said, "Soon you will be despised for the laws you accept." Why do we respect laws which are mean? Have I responded?
Yeah, that's it's all thought-provoking. Thanks.
We should stay true to our values. This is it.
Dmitry, how much will the Nobel Peace Prize change life for Novaya Gazeta? Does this give?
Oh,
hold on.
Yeah. So, but what can I say? What can I say?
Does this give you and your colleagues more protection?
Well, how do I know? How do I know? Yeah, protection, or maybe it would ruin our lives. Is this your question, right?
Well, I'm hoping it will help our colleagues in Russia, because there hasn't been much the international community can do.
Well, I don't have an answer to your question.
Okay, we are running out of time.
I do not have an answer.
That's fine.
And I really appreciate, indeed, you asked a very good question, but I don't have the answer to it.
Well, we'll see where things go. And listen, we want you and no.
Thank you. Yes, we'll see.
We hope that you and the great staff at Novaya Gazeta and all of our colleagues in Russian independent media know that they have friends around the world, and we are so delighted that
Thank you so much indeed. I don't usually give interviews, but I felt obliged to talk to you because indeed you are our support, and we will work together with you.
we look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. I'm sorry that there were a lot of questions from the audience that we could not tackle. It was a limited time, but let's keep the conversation. Send us on social media, and thank you very much for your time, especially in these very busy days. Good luck with the call center, and we will be here for anything that we can help you with.
And stay tuned for.
Thank you so much. If anyone has further questions, just feel free to email them to me. I will respond to you.
This interview will be posted to GIJN's YouTube channel. You can also follow developments on our Twitter feed at GIJN. And again, a huge thank you to Dmitry Muratov. He's extremely busy this week, and the fact that he took time to sit with us, we're grateful, sir.
Thank you. Huge thanks to you.
And big thanks
Have a
to
good
our
time.
audience.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.